Once upon a time, in a small village nestled between towering mountains, there lived a man named Elias. He was not the strongest, nor the wealthiest, nor the most skilled among the villagers, but there was something about him that drew people in. When he spoke, others listened. When he entered a room, heads turned. He carried himself with a quiet confidence that made others feel safe and inspired in his presence. The villagers often wondered, how did Elias cultivate such a powerful presence? Elias had not always been this way. In his youth, he had been timid, unsure of himself, easily swayed by the opinions of others. But one day, an old philosopher passing through the village noticed the young man's struggle. The philosopher, a Stoic by practice, took Elias under his wing and taught him the principles of inner strength. Over time, Elias learned that a powerful presence was not about loud words or forceful actions. It was about the mastery of the self. The first lesson the philosopher taught Elias was the importance of stillness. A man who is always rushing, always reacting, never truly owns his presence, the old man said. He showed Elias how to practice silence, not just the absence of speech, but a deep inner calm. Every morning, Elias would sit by the river, watching the water flow without disturbance. He observed how the river never struggled to be noticed. It simply was. In time, Elias learned to carry that same stillness within himself. He stopped fidgeting, stopped filling every silence with nervous chatter. His presence became grounded, unshaken by the chaos around him. The second lesson was about the power of observation. The philosopher told Elias, most people speak before they think, act before they understand. But a man with true presence listens first. Elias began to practice this. In conversations, he no longer waited for his turn to speak. He truly listened. He noticed the small details, the way a person's voice changed when they were uncertain, the flicker of emotion in their eyes. By observing more, he understood more. And because he understood, his words carried weight. People felt heard in his presence, and that made them trust him. The third lesson was the hardest, mastering fear. The philosopher explained that fear was the enemy of presence. A man who fears judgment, failure, or rejection will always shrink in the eyes of others, he said. Elias had to confront his own fears. He practiced speaking his mind, even when his voice trembled. He stood by his decisions even when others disagreed. Slowly, he realized that fear only had power over him if he let it. The more he faced his fears, the less they controlled him. His confidence grew not because he was never afraid, but because he refused to let fear dictate his actions. The fourth lesson was about integrity. The philosopher said, a powerful presence is built on truth. If your words and actions do not align, people will sense the lie, even if they cannot name it. Elias took this to heart. He stopped making promises he couldn't keep. He stopped pretending to be someone he was not. He lived by his principles, even when it was difficult. Over time, people knew that Elias was a man of his word. That consistency made him dependable, and dependability deepened his presence. The final lesson was the simplest, yet the most profound. Presence was not about dominating others, but about being fully where you were. The philosopher said, many men spend their lives trying to be everywhere at once, in the past with regret, in the future with worry, but a man of presence is here now. Elias practiced this by focusing on the moment. When he walked, he noticed the ground beneath his feet. When he ate, he tasted his food. When he spoke to someone, he gave them his full attention. This mindfulness made him seem more alive, more real than those lost in distraction. Years passed, and Elias became known far beyond his village. Leaders sought his counsel. Strangers felt at ease in his company. Yet he never sought fame or power. His presence alone was enough. One evening, a young traveler asked him, "How did you become this way?" Elias smiled and told the story of the old philosopher. Then he said, "A powerful presence is not something you put on like a cloak. It is something you uncover, like a fire that was always within you. It begins with stillness, grows with observation, strengthens with courage, deepens with integrity, and shines when you are truly present. The traveler nodded, but still seemed unsure. Elias placed a hand on his shoulder and said, "Do not try to impress. Do not try to force it. Simply be still, listen, face your fears, live truthfully, and be where you are. The rest will follow." And so the lesson was passed on, just as it had been for generations. For the secret of a powerful presence was not in grand gestures or loud words. It was in the quiet mastery of the self. And that, Elias knew, was something anyone could cultivate, if only they had the patience and the will to try. The end.